Hello tacticians, it's Nox here, and today we're going to be looking at the Aeldari as a faction to use in the faction tournament arena. But before I go into them, I just want to say my usual thank yous, and today they go to Big Bungus, Draconic Avatar, Imprescott, Odin-san, Brother B-Man, and Artie. All of you have used my friend code, and it is very much appreciated, as it really does help me out. And if you want to help me out in another way, feel free to hit that subscribe button below. And now, with all that said, let's have a look at the Aeldari. First up is Calandis, and she is remarkable. This character has been in the tournament arena since the very beginning and still remains a solid pick just on her own. And the reason for that is mainly due to the fire and reposition, which means she may move as normal and attack, and then after attacking, she may make another normal movement. So what this actually means is she'll move into range, shoot someone, and then move out of range. Or possibly pick up one power-up, again, shoot someone, and then pick up a second. And the same can be said for territories. Calandis is an all-star when it comes to these sort of events. And if you manage to get into combat with her, she has the wire weave net, which means the first time Calandis is targeted by a normal melee attack, and bear in mind some active abilities can be normal melee attacks as well, the attacker immediately takes piercing damage, and then if the attacker is eliminated, their melee attack is not executed. So if the enemy has got someone on low health and they run in to hit Calandis first, that person will probably die. Quite often though, it's the summons that run in first and die, and that means that other characters can mop up afterwards. As Calandis, like all Aeldari, isn't tremendously tanky. And if you really want to get the maximum out of Calandis, make sure you remember the heavy weapon trait, which means if she doesn't move, you'll get an additional 25% damage on those ranged attacks. Next up is Aethana, who is among the most manoeuvrable characters in the game. Being able to fly and with a massive movement of 5 means she is going to get to where she's needed, whether it's picking up a power-up, capturing a territory, or even trying to kill one of the enemy characters that they're trying to hide from you. I wouldn't worry so much about the swooping hawk aspect. It is nice to do that extra damage if everyone is lined up in a row, but quite often that isn't the case. What is more impressive is the path of command, where she will give friendly units within 2 hexes additional damage, and their crit chance, if they have one, is increased by a certain percentage. And then, because of course we are talking about Aeldari, you get an additional damage on top of that as well. So Aethana, although very manoeuvrable, is going to want to stay with Calandis, Maugan Ra, and JainZar to make sure that whatever they're attacking dies. And Eldryon. Now, if you haven't heard of Eldryon by now, I'm not quite sure how you've been playing Tacticus. Probably the most iconic character of the game when it comes to the guild boss raids. I would say anyone who's been playing this game for a decent length of time has probably got Eldryon maxed out, and I don't really need to go over what Eldryon can do, but I think it's worthwhile pointing out Executioner, as I'm not sure how many people actually use this. This skill, when activated, will target an enemy within range 2, and they'll take psychic damage for each round that has started. If that target is then eliminated, an adjacent enemy also takes that much damage for each round that has started. So if you're looking at a long game, and for some reason they maybe do put 2 together, Eldryon here could probably snipe them both in one go. But you will need to have a long game to get there. And Eldryon, as I've said before, like all Aeldari, isn't very tanky, so he does die quite quickly. But if you keep him safe, he can sure pack a punch. And the first of the 2 legendaries, Maugan Ra, his role is more suited to guild raids, but when backed up with Eldryon, those 6 heavy round hits he has when shooting at someone can make mincemeat out of even the toughest of armours. He has some protection against close combat because of the terrifying trait, but really this is a character you want shooting rather than standing in combat with someone who he's not going to beat in a fistfight. And last, but by no means least, JainZar. I've got fond memories of using JainZar in the early days of Tacticus, as with Infiltrate, she could run in and destroy any Overwatch which was there by using her active, the Silent Death. I'd quite often run into Ravas, hit Silent Death, kill the drones, and even sometimes someone standing next to those drones as well, because of how dangerous this active is. Mind you, it only really shines when people are grouped up. And if you can combine that with Aethana or Eldryon, you're going to see those guys disappear in a mist of red. Her Terror's Lament also means that she can protect herself in combat as well, where adjacent enemies deal less damage and have one less hit with melee attacks. So if you have to not level something up, I would say this is the one, because to be frank, if people are in combat with her, they'll tend to step away and shoot her rather than face her in combat. But enough about talking of them, let's see what they can do in action. First up, let's pit them against the Orks, who were one of the more popular factions in the faction tournament arena. I would say always make sure the danger zone is turned on and understand the range of all these characters, as this power-up can be hit by two characters. The first is Gibber Scraps, who will summon his tank, and the second, of course, is Snapper-Wrecker. Snotflogger can't get far enough to summon in the grots to trap her in place. So with these two, it might be worthwhile taking that risk. The only one who can attack this melee hit power-up is Boss Golgorts, so we can either pick it up with Aethana, who's probably the best character to have, or we could have put Calandis there. Now, with the other two, you're going to want to support the other two units. And I should have put on the danger zone to see where they could have got to, but never mind, hopefully you'll learn from my mistakes. The first thing that any Orc player will do is to check to see if they're in range with Boss Golgorts to call the war, as this will increase the movement of everyone else. As long as you're out of range of him, you are safe-ish. They'll then have a look to see what they can do. Now, here we've really put the Orcs under pressure. We've moved forward. We can obviously move forward even further, and if we check their danger zone, they can't get away, so they're going to have to decide what to do. So, as I mentioned earlier, Snapper-Wrecker can shoot JainZar, which will debuff her armour. So, not that the Aeldari have huge armour in the first place, but now she's got even less. Gibber Scraps can move in and summon a tank, who will then shoot. Now, I didn't know who was going to shoot, but it's shot Maugan Ra, not doing a lot of damage. So over here, the Orcs are now in a fairly weak position, and one we will want to exploit. But although they're in a weak position, they've certainly got some tricks left up their sleeve. And what they're going to do is, foolishly, move their last one, Snotflogger, into base contact with the others. And you'll see why that's foolish in a second. Boss Golgorts will pick up the damage increase, because, let's be honest, he's great. And they are thinking about picking up the armour, because what's going to happen if Tank Smasher moves more than 2, he gains additional damage reduction. So let's do that. There's an Overwatch shot, but doesn't even get through his shield. Back to the Aeldari turn. The Orcs have charged forward like Orcs like to do, although I think they have overcommitted. Although, let's be honest, I'm doing this to highlight the Aeldari. First up, we have JainZar, who will use her Silent Death on Snapper-Wrecker, killing it and nearly killing Snotflogger as well. So we're going to capitalise on this. First of all, we're going to get rid of the tank. And then we will get rid of Snotflogger. After all, fewer Orcs, the better for us. Now, I would like to get rid of Boss Golgorts, as he is going to cause lots of trouble. So we'll attack him with both Aethana and Calandis, killing him off. And now the Orcs are pretty much neutered, and Calandis can reposition just to make sure that Tank Smasher here can't get the upper hand. Now, I will say that although we've done a huge amount of damage to the Orcs, they're going to repay the favour now. First of all, they'll get rid of Aethana. And secondly, I've got a funny feeling, I was expecting it to do more damage than that to JainZar. So JainZar will repay the favour and we'll finish off with Eldryon. And then all that the Aeldari need to do is finish off Tank Smasher. Like that. Next up, we have the Tau, and it's a kind of similar story. You don't want to overcommit, you want to find out where they can get to. We're not too worried about Orn Shi, and I'm not sure how much damage Shadow Sun will do, so let's just do a similar sort of opening. The only difference is they've got a much better shot over here with these two. Now, if they can actually cover the multiple hits, which it looks like even Show-Sil can't, the only one we have to worry about is Rayvas, so JainZar will pick that up yet again. Now, what Tau players like to do is, well, go into Overwatch in a very strong position with Rayvas. Having a little shot doesn't really matter, and we're going to pick up the damage increase. We're going to move Orks across and, well, let's target JainZar. Beyond that, though, there isn't much the tag can do. And again, let's be honest, I'm hamming this up just a little just to show off how well the Aeldari work together. So JainZar can move in. She's got infiltrate. She doesn't care that Rayvas is there and kills off the 2 drones, although it didn't actually spread onto the others, which I thought it may have done. But at least now we know his Overwatch is done, and so is Rayvas. With Calandis, we'll make sure, or hope, to kill off Orks. Without Orks, they can't refresh their abilities or get the passive bonus. And we'll just, well, probably shouldn't move Eldryon forward because it won't do much damage there. But let's see what this happens. So down comes the missile, and this turn I think we're going to see JainZar die in a puff of smoke. So first of all, Darkstrider puts the marker light on her, which means when Show Cell fires, there she goes. And Shadow Sun will probably do the same to Eldryon. So now it's 3 on 3, but I still think that the Aeldari have the advantage here. Calandis can kill 1, and Aethana and Maugan Ra kill another. And now all they're left with is Darkstrider, who, well, let's use his fighting retreat and nearly killed off Aethana here. But we need to focus on the drone, use the AoE attack both, and then Calandis will probably finish her off. The last one is going to be against the Death Guard. Now this is going to be a tough match for the Aeldari, mainly because of all the high armour, and Nauseous Rotbone will give us a few headaches, because of his fairly decent chance of reviving anyone next to him. But what we have is the advantage of speed. So we are going to be picking up as many of these power-ups as possible. And we're even going to push forward a bit more with Maugan Ra. Now the Death Guard are not going to want us to get the damage power-up. So they're going to grab that with Pestillion and back him up and start creating the Death Ball that they're well known for. Now I'm not sure if it's best to put Maladus over here to threaten the health power-up, or to put him next to Nauseous. As it stands, Nauseous is probably not in the best position, as he is open to an attack, but as I said, this is all about showing off the Aeldari. So we need to make sure that Rotbone dies, which we can do like that. And we carry on the onslaught with the rest of the Aeldari now that Rotbone is dead. And because they're high piercing and issuing things in the right order, you can actually take the Death Guard apart. But it really does rely on taking out Rotbone first. If Rotbone was still there, you would guess that at least one of those other characters that I killed would be back on their feet. And as their Death Guard attack back, you'll see that they are quite tough to take down. But because we've got everyone helping each other out, the Death Guard only managed to get a few points off us. But we're happy because we still manage the win. Eventually. Bear in mind that these battles were shown purely to highlight how well the Aeldari work together in the best circumstances. Utilise them as a team and supporting each other. With Aethana and Eldryon, you can almost take down anyone else. However, the issue is if they are charged first. As soon as you start losing your key components, such as Aethana and Eldryon and Calandis, the rest of the team aren't going to do as well. However, they are still a great team, and in the hands of someone who really understands them, I think they are one of the contenders for the top spot. So in the next faction tournament arena, if you have these guys, give them a go in casual and see if they work for you. If you like these videos, then it would be much appreciated if you at least think about using my friend code, as it really does help me out. Or if you or your guilds are looking for a new home, please reach out to any of the guilds shown, as we'll always welcome new people into our midst. As always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.